When you were last on Bloomberg television, you were saying businesses were more concerned about China 2025, the transfer of data, but things have certainly stepped up a notch since then, the escalation of the tariffs coming through from the Trump administration. So do you feel that things are getting worse now and businesses are starting to get worried?
The market is beginning to notice, and you're hearing more about the trade wars impacting market growth. And you're hearing more companies during their earnings releases talking about the impact of higher costs on their earnings. So, yes, the market is taking notice.
Do you think U.S. businesses themselves could start to get very worried and start to feel an impact because it could hurt the auto sector? There's going to be potentially a surplus of commodities like soybeans.
Absolutely. Everyone is worried one way or the other. Soybeans, of course, are a big export from the U.S. To China, and that was one of the first tariffs that China put on U.S. products. That hurts farmers, and of course it hurts part of President Trump's base. So all of this is happening in the context of a political environment that people are paying attention to and trying to balance trade interests versus political interests.
How well adapt do you think that companies are to potential disruptions to their supply chain in the wake of the trade tension?
They're aware. I would say today they're very aware. Some of them have been hit, some not yet. What we're telling companies is don't make any strategic decisions until you have to. Make tactical decisions, but you can make a massive strategic decision, change your whole supply chain just to realize that maybe 6 months from now, things calm down. So wait as long as you can before doing something strategic that could impact your costs, that could impact your competitiveness.
You spoke about Trump's base just a couple of minutes ago. Do you think we see a more sanguine, a more reasonable Trump administration in dealing with China and the rest of the world come the end of the midterm elections in November?
You know, I think that Nafta is more of a political handicap because that's very much his base. A lot of exports from U.S. states, red states. I don't think that the China problem will subside in the near term. I think it plays well during an election season, and that's in November. And the president's very worried about losing the House and potentially even losing the Senate. So I think China will be a very big part of that campaign. I don't see it going away soon.
Speaking of NAFTA, do we see an agreement reached with Canada, with the US, with Mexico before AMLO takes over in Mexico in January?
Yeah, this is getting quite complicated because they have to finish by the end of this month to sign it before AMLO takes over. And AMLO has warned that if he has to take over an unsigned NAFTA, he may want to look at oil and gas. He may want to look at other parts, agriculture. So I think that's why Mexico is pushing very hard to get in, to get it done. Canada this morning made some interesting comments. It looks like they're making progress. But the politically charged dairy industry is what's at stake here. Quebec, which is the largest dairy region, has elections on October 1.
Yeah.
So this is all, jumbled in within political considerations. The other thing is that the president has authority to take back a NAFTA agreement to Congress. He doesn't have authority to take back a U.S.-Mexico agreement.
Yeah.
And that's another uncertainty.
I just want to ask you one final question, Mr. Secretary. You and I were swapping Twitter follows earlier. You're on Twitter. You've been on Twitter for about a year, and your panel here at the Milken Summit is on Trump tweets and trades. Tell us about what you're going to say there. Well,
it's interesting because those words sort of capture what's going on. President Trump has a very strong feeling about trade, and he's had this since the 1980s, that he believes that we are not negotiating the way we should. He uses deficits as the proxy. He communicates through tweets, and that is often a problem, that you're negotiating publicly, and that is not good for countries. Countries don't like to lose face, and then it's all about trade.